Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a former Boeing 737 pilot, and today we are going to have a look at two brand new sceneries while flying the Delta Airlines 737-900ER. Now, we haven't flown the 900ER in a little while on this channel, so I am very much looking forward to that. And likewise, we've got two new sceneries. Well, one of them technically a new update of an existing scenery. First of all, we are in beautiful model of the world and AMSIM's new Miami scenery, and we're going to fly it over to Atlanta, which is an updated version from ImagineSim. Both of which very promising sceneries. Miami, most importantly, because I never got really warm with the Latin VFR scenery, and Miami is just one of those places that I just really want to have a look at. And the other one, Atlanta, is a little bit of a controversial scenery there, seeing that some people say it's very good, others say it's not so much. The one thing that I can tell you from the very beginning onwards already is in Atlanta you now have all the parking spots available, versus previously where you could only select a certain sum of them. Alright, so let's head straight into our 737, and we are going to have a look at a little specialty of our flight today. So we've just arrived on block here, coming from Atlanta, so our airplane is in a transit state that we've got over here. And let's first of all start by having a look at our flight plan. So let's request the data from SimBrief, and quickly update our departure weather as well, and have a look into the actual OFP now. We are using the original Delta format from SimBrief, so it's one that I'm not too familiar with. Actually, it's my second flight only with it. So quite a couple of new things in here. Now, what's most interesting today is that we are filed at only flight level 300. The reason for that is some rather extensive headwinds that we are going to look at, but we will have a look into that in a moment. If we take our plan down here, you can see that we do have our wind charts, and if we have a look at the vertical profile chart over here, you can see Miami, our departure is on the right hand side here, our arrival Atlanta is on the other one, and we do have quite a bit of headwind here. But look at that, the lower we go, the weaker it gets. The core of the jet stream is located somewhere around flight level 390, as we can see on the charts over here. So flying low is actually going to save us some fuel, and for that, dispatch has planned us at flight level 300. This is also rather easy to see. If we have a look at the level 340 chart over here, we can see 105 knots of headwind. If we have a look at the 300 charts, it's only about 90 knots of headwind. So quite a bit of a difference there that actually does make it worth flying at lower levels. Obviously, dispatch would calculate all of that and then give us the most economical flight plan available. Over here you can nicely see the jet stream almost exactly opposite to our route of flight. And at the core in flight level 390, it's got a speed of 115 knots. Alright, so that much for our basic theory here of what is planned for our flight today. So let's now go ahead and make a fuel decision. The weather itself is looking good pretty much everywhere, so we don't need to be concerned with that. So if we do have a look now into our minimum fuel that we got here, minimum block fuel 17801, we can make that something about 1900 or so. Then we do have a little bit of extra fuel. Let's go ahead and order that up from the FMS menu here. Fuel truck is here already, so let's go ahead and start our refueling process. And the catering is in progress already, so we'll be good for boarding in a few moments. 170 passengers, and we'll take 2,000 pounds of cargo in the front, 1,000 pounds of cargo in the back. And that is our general setup for the day. Right, so catering services should be done now. Let's go ahead and start all our setups, and we can start with the boarding as soon as the catering vehicles have disappeared and the doors are closed, which is the case just now already. Alright, so fasten belts gotta go off though, since we are still refueling. Alright then, you can start the boarding, and as soon as the gentlemen are done, we can collect our fuel cards as well and start our refueling. Now, with all of that done, a couple of basic safety stuff there that we just gotta do, and that is setting up our nav display. We gotta do our oxygen check. which is looking good, and we'll also quickly set up the FO's nav display so that we don't accidentally run the weather radar over there. Apart from that, a quick shout out to the creator of the livery that we're flying, actually, because that is looking really beautiful. So a quick shout out to J Aviation from flightsim.to, who created the Delta Airlines pack with the cabin modeled as well. So really good looking package. And if we do have a quick look into the cabin, look at that. Really beautiful, isn't it? He did an awesome job there. He really did an awesome job with that livery, and I'm really looking forward to fly that. Right, so straight back into the cockpit, and here we go again. Also pretty nice to see, looking outside the window here, the scenery from beautiful Model of the World and Amazon. Alright, cool. So that much about basic theory of where we are, what we're doing, and so on. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna turn on a fuel pump here and fire up the APU. It's only 16 degrees, but we do want it to be temperate in the cabin. And if we do have a look up here into the actual temperatures, looking at about, what's that, 75 Fahrenheit, so temperature itself is quite alright, but we want to be on the safe side here to make it comfy for our passengers. Okay, so that much about it. The IRS has aligned already, and then we can go ahead with our FMS pre-flight. We may start loading cargo in the front. Fueling is well in progress. So 737-900ER with blended winglets. Do note, it can say blended winglets in here, and the plane may actually have split scimitar winglets on the outside. In terms of FMS performance, that's completely fine. You can fly with the blended winglet performance in the FMS when you're actually flying a split scimitar winglet airplane. That is completely acceptable. Alright, cool. Then let's go ahead. Position initialization is obviously not required. Then we can go for a flight plan request, and we're going to get that straight from SimBrief. Select the route. Thank you. Delta 1323. That is operated sometimes with the 737-900, sometimes with the 757 in the real world. So this is a realistic flight to perform on the 737-900. Okay, so load the route. So strange not having any sounds associated with all of this. In the 777, obviously, you get all the ding-dongs and stuff like that, and I kind of start getting used to that already. But let's not do too much teasing about the triple. You guys will see it soon enough. Okay, so boarding is well in progress, and the loading is as well. Alright, so we're going to depart Miami on runway 8 right today, and we've got the Flamingo 1 departure leading up towards Stemmy. Alright, and for the arrival, let's have a quick look into that. I do believe it's 26 right that they've planned. Now we just gotta find our way across the new flight plan format. That is always the hardest thing to do. Okay, Jedi 3 arrival in Atlanta. Obviously over here it doesn't say the runway, lovely, but that's fine. I do believe it is 26 right, and we are going to rework it in the air anyway. Alright, so Jedi 3, and we are coming from Laos. Is the next waypoint Owen by any chance? I wouldn't be surprised. Alright, cool. So we're gonna go with that. For the performance in it, cost index is 13 today. Then our fuel reserves, looking into this. FMS reserve 6.8. Okay, zero fuel weight is 137.0. Obviously this is pounds, needless to say, flying in the US, I believe. So the trip altitude over here does not take the winds into account in the 737. So it is rather important over here that we just take it right from the flight plan. And we can play with all of that good stuff a little bit later on when we're in the air. Okay, so do we have an average wind in this flight plan format over here? Doesn't really look like it, but tell you what, doesn't matter, we're just gonna uplink it anyway. Alright, so we're gonna keep that stuff, then go lax, route data, wind data request. Here we go. Unable 280 knots, not a problem. Let's see, that's probably in the arrival part of things anyway. Yeah, it is. Well, we're gonna change that around in flight in order to match our required performance data. Okay, cool. So route data and the winds are uplinked. Unable to 80, yes, thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm quickly gonna go and fix that. So, we're just gonna turn it to 80 for the descent, and then the message should be gone. Right, so load the forecast request for the descents as well. Easygoing stuff, thank you. 25-mile ring around our departure airport is gonna make our life easy for remembering our minimum sector altitude. 250 below 10,000 is correct. The routing will check in a couple moments. Okay, so that does look good after all. Right, excellent. And with that, our FMS pre-flight's pretty much done. Then let's go straight over to our check of the panel. Okay, APU is available for a little while now. APU bleed coming on in order to get our cabin heated. And the cargo loading is done, so the carts can go. Passenger boarding is on a nice way, and fueling is completed as well. Fuel truck can go. And then continuing on the overhead panel here, seatbelt signs can come on. Window heat is going to come on. The hydraulic pumps are coming on. Air conditioning is looking good. Cruise level. Here we go, flight level 300. And our destination elevation, we can do a little trick. Take the one from here, subtract 50 feet, so we're looking at 1,000 feet elevation. The FMS is always going to take the runway waypoint as destination elevation plus 50 feet, so that it overflies the runway threshold at an altitude of 50 feet above threshold. So a little trick that you can use if you can't be bothered looking up the elevation from the flight plan. Okay, so another quick thing that I do like to do that many flight simulators do tend to miss is the display brightness. The default PMDG brightness is very, very bright. So by setting that down to about half, you're getting more of a realistic value for your flight. Be aware, I also posted a video about that topic a while ago called What Do Pilots Set Their Lights At? And that's basically the conclusion for the displays that we are going about. Obviously speaking, I do cover the rest of the cockpit lights in that video as well. Okay, so here we go then. That's pretty much our airplane setup completed. Then let's go and grab a couple of charts for this one. So departure charts please, Miami airport charts, and we start with the airport and airport info chart, and we can take a parking bay chart up here as well. Then I sit. And here we go, Flamingo 1 on-off departure. And the final thing that I do like to do is to go on to the Navigraph charts in here, zoom all the way in, and then we do have a safe taxi chart available. Isn't that cool? Okay, so, and then we can focus on the SID chart over here. I'm going to turn it into night mode so that it doesn't blind us completely when we're looking at it. Right, initial climb 5,000, and we've pre-selected 5.1. The runway 8, climb and heading 092-500 direct to sea salt. So 092-500 sea salt. Okay, track 007 deals, track 348 live. So that's 09 deals 350 live. That's fair enough. Okay, and then 3-3 towards Gate 339 across Alonso at 5,000. And that is what we've got in here. Alright. So that's looking pretty good from Aldo. 349 Flamingo, then in silent transition, maintain 5,000. Okay, so 351 Flamingo. And then let's have a very quick look in here. So from Flamingo we continue via Wapham to Stemi. And that's what we have in the FMS as well. Awesome. So with that, all of this stuff is basically discussed. I would say what's going to be a minimum clean speed. So flaps 40, 143 plus 70, so 213 is going to be a min clean. So what I'm going to do, just in order to make us climb a little bit quicker, going to be 213 or less all the way to Deals. Like that, the airplane is just going to climb a little bit faster. We'll probably clear out the 5,000 soon after takeoff anyway, because looking at flight radar, it seems like they really do their best to make you climb straight out. Obviously, for noise abatement reasons, that's a rather useful thing to do anyway. Okay, excellent. So with that, our setup is pretty much completed. Then let's go ahead with the departure briefing. Threats for the departure, I really don't see many. None at all. Alright, so, then, time UTC 1402, altimeter 3015, reading 20, no MFRA needed. It's gonna be 1000 above ground anyway. But tell you what, we might as well just dial that in right now. So 1020 is coming up. Flight directors are on, minus master, standby instruments set. It's gonna be a left seat takeoff, runway 8 right, flaps 5, noise abatement procedure number 1, and the SID is taking us straight out left turn. Emergencies, straight out 25 miles, climb and hold over there, over the water. Now, from there on, not really a lot of things to do. We can come back for any runway. Weather is good for landing on pretty much any runway we do have available here in Miami. Apart from that, above 8 knots, I will only call stop for fire warning, engine failure, predictive wind chill warning, aircraft unable or unsafe to fly. If I call stop, I'll simultaneously close the thrust levers, disengage auto throttle, apply max manual braking, verify operation of the IDR auto brakes, manually apply speed brakes and maximum reverse. When the aircraft comes to stop, I will set the parking brake. Alright, and if you call stop, I know what the brakes on, because speed picks up, speed picks not up, and thrusters normal up, normal indications. Call 1 knots, 8 knots, 6 knots, and the runway distance remaining. Verify your actions, call in emissions, I call auto brake disarm, select flaps 40 when the parking brake has been set, advise ATC of the reject. We'll then identify the failure, carry out hand jolts as appropriate. If we decide to evacuate, we read and do the evacuation checklist. Time permitting, pull the CBRCV, grab the lid, and then we get out. Alright, so, if the call before V1 is keep going, there will be no actions below 400 feet except to cancelling warnings, raise landing over the pod of rate. 400 feet, verify heading, select carry out the memory items, set the MFRA, back up, retract flaps and schedule, flaps not allowed, select level change, MCT automatics. Non-normal checklist, then we'll do Payos in its PA, and we are going to decide on the further course of action. So, finally speaking, what are we going to do? Taxi out with the straight pushback, I do suppose, and then we can taxi straight out via Golf onto the inner taxiway over here, and then that's probably going to be Papa over here all the way runway 8 right for the departure. Okay, it's the Flamingo 1 departure. We did check the waypoints in the FMS. Initial altitude is going to be 5,000 feet, and we'll pre-select that, and we've got it in the FMS as well. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Nope. Awesome. Right, then I'll say hello to the passengers, and then we can do our final preparations. Ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome aboard this Delta Airlines 737-900. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm your captain today. With me on the flight deck, lots of first officers who are going to enjoy this flight with us. We are about ready for pushback, just doing the last couple of paperwork, and when we're done with that, we are going to depart into the easterly direction across Miami Beach with a left-hand turn towards the north. We do have a little bit of headwind today, so our flight is going to take a little bit longer than usual. We're looking at a flight time of approximately 1 hour and 40 minutes, and I would like to ask you now to make yourself comfortable. Sit back, relax, enjoy the flight with us, and if there's anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask any of our cabin crew. Thank you very much for your attention, and again, welcome aboard this Delta Airlines 737-900. Right, so these gentlemen are dealt with. Then our equipment seems to be mostly gone. Let's go ahead and do our performance then. So, stand by for the pushback, please, GSX. So, runway 8 right, import, and calculate. So, takeoff 1 at 49 degrees. Let's have a look at what our actual weight is. 135.6 versus 137.0. That's very good. So 154.5. And funnily enough, Delta Airlines has these little stickers in here in the cockpit with the maximum weights. Those, by the way, part of the repaints that I've downloaded and that I recommended earlier. So really recommendable. Very good paint here. Okay, cool. So that stuff is all in. Then let's go ahead with this. It's reduced takeoff 1 and we set 49 degrees of flex temperature. Let's go for that. 92.3, 92.3. Awesome. Alright, cool. So flaps 5 departure. We'll take the CG of... Do we have a CG in here? Am I blind? Oh, no CG. Yeah, it is. But that's the takeoff CG, isn't it? Not the, Well, that's fine. Okay, 26.0. Let's see, can we... Yep, 26.0. Perfect. 4.9 units of trim. And those match what we've got in the EFB as well. Alright, cool. 4.9 units, and the takeoff speeds 148, 149, 155. And that's all within 1 knot. If the speeds are within 1 knot of the EFB, then you can take the FMS speeds. Otherwise, you gotta take the EFB speeds. Right, so acceleration altitude 1000. The rest can stay as it is, and engine out acceleration altitude 1000 as well. Awesome. Cool, so with that, we are pretty much done. Then let's see, the parking brake is set. We're running on APU power. So chocks can be removed, and we just got the forward door still open. That's interesting. Thought GSX would be closing these. Okay, anyway, here we go. So, closing that, and we do have more than 1,000 pounds in center tank, so I am going to turn the center tank pumps on as well. Cabin should be secured by now, so we're going to put that on. Okay, so safety inspection checklist and before start checklist down to the line. Services chocks checked, maintenance status checked, battery is on, electrohydraulic comes on, landing gear lever down, ships library checked. RS mode select as nav, gear pins, that's going to be 1, 2 and 3 removed, light tests, well checked, it's transit state anyway, oxygen test 100%, yaw damper on, nav transfer display switch is normal auto, fuel 18 required, 18.9 on board, 6 pumps on, cabin utility IFE on, emergency exit light on, fast modes on, window heat on, aircon press, PAX auto bleeds on set, press mode selector, auto, instruments cross-checked, auto brake, RTO, speed brake, oh sorry, hydraulics first of all, here they are, normal, speed brake, down to turn, park brake set, duckman cutout switch is normal, radius radar transponder, standby, wheel by fire warning checked. Okay, radar and aileron trim, free and 0, take a briefing discussed, PA complete, FMC, CDU set, M1IS box automatic, radius 26k, speeds 474854 set, step trim 4.9, required set, start. Okay, so that's the step trim set, and finally we've got EFB, airplane mode stowed, flight windows, cockpit door closed, doors closed, passengers seated, before start checklist complete down to the line. Man, it's been a while since I read those things. Okay, anyway then. So, ground cockpit, go ahead. So, we're clear to push, and the park brake is set. Alright, so now comes the big question. I couldn't find any GSX profile for this airport. If I tell GSX to do a pushback with the nose to the right, it's probably going to push us straight into the terminal, so we might just about do a straight push, and then taxi out ourselves. I do think that's the best idea. Okay, so push approved, straight pushback, and the parking brake set. Okay then, release parking brake please. Parking brake released. So, before start checklist below the line, air compacts off, anti-collision on, parking brake released, transponder held off, before start checklist complete. So, starting engines 2 and 1 in sequence. Engine 2 start. And 2. All pressure. And 1. So, quick look out. Yeah, this is kind of what I expected. So, GSX kindly stop the pushback here and complete. Thank you. No, don't release the parking brake immediately. Ground speed 1 knot. Interesting. The Marshal is just walking straight into the jet blast, I suppose. No comment on that. Okay. Pack isolated, engine 1 start. So, ground cockpit, starting engine 1. And 2. All pressure. And 1. This is obviously going to be a little disconcerting for the Marshal standing right behind the engine. But well, no comment on that. Let's light it up. For the protocol, obviously, we would not do something like that in the real world. Blah, 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 blah. Right, so let's see what's gonna happen when I tell GSX to vanish now. Interrupt pushback, yes. Sometimes this program just... I don't know. Okay, so... starter... cutout, monitor 1. That's 2. A little bit high over here. 6. Yeah. It's alright. Ground cockpit. Go ahead. So we got ticket starts, clear disconnect, clear sign in front, please, and have a good day. And it looks like they are completely clear already. Alright, fine. We can absolutely work with that. Then let's go ahead with our procedures. Flight control check. Full up, full down, neutral. Full left, full right, neutral. Rudder, full left, full right, neutral. After start checklist. Generators on, APU off, start switch is continuous, probe heat on, anti-ice off, air conditioning, PEX auto bleeds on, isolation off, auto, flaps, 5 required, 5 selected, and the green light. Step trim, 4.9 set. Start levers idly turned, flight controls checked, recall checked, before start checklist complete. Okay then, let's get rid of the sunshades and off we go. So, brake released, and obviously we gotta put 5,000 in here. Config. Looking good, and off we go. Okay, so bind that to the position, please. So maximum 15 knots on the apron, and later on 10 knots for turns, so not worth going much over 10 knots right now. So let's just do it this way. 12 knots, looks superb. Okay then, so first right on a papa. And here it is, papa. Clear right side, clear left side. 10 knots, here we go. Okay, continue Papa. And this is going to be a little bit of a longer trip now. Alright, so our taxi routing is understood. We'll go straight ahead, slight right turn, still straight ahead all the way to the end, and that's where we find our holding point. So, before takeoff checklist down to the line. Config. Checked. Flaps. 5, green light. Stop trim 4.9 set. Takeoff briefing. Left seat takeoff runway 8 right. Flaps 5, noise abatement procedure number 1. Tax throttle bleeds on. And sorry, it's actually noise abatement procedure number 2 that we're doing, of course. I'm gonna take a little shortcut over this, because there's simply nobody on the right hand side there. Okay, so, then what we're going to do is, flaps 5, takeoff speeds 147, 148, 154, and that is set. LNAV and VNAV for the takeoff. And VNAV is all the way prepared to maintain our speed once we get airborne for the first turn as well, in order to gain altitude while we're over Miami and Miami Beach. Now, from there on, everything gonna be managed LNAV VNAV, and in case of emergencies, we proceed straight on heading select, and then ATC is probably going to give us some vectors somewhere anyway. Could imagine a holding over Dolphin or something like that, but we'll see. And with that, I don't mean the animals in the water, but I mean the VOR. That's somewhere on the extended center line that you can see on the nav display down here already. Delta Hotel Papa. Here it is. Okay. Small thing while I notice it. Runway heading 092 is set. And that's it. Any questions? No? Awesome. So, cabin ready before takeoff checklist complete down to the line. The HUD we can very well use for takeoff as well. Alright, so I would say that is looking pretty good. So straight ahead to the end, and it's right here it is. So as of present, the TCAS is written in operative, so we are going to keep that one in the aft position, or rather we are just going to use the transponder on the altitude reporting mode, but not on any of the TCAS modes, just to avoid the panel freezing up. That issue is going to be solved soon, but at this moment the fix is still in the 777 beta, not yet in the 737. Okay, so line up and wait, 8 right. Cabin crew, prepare for departure. LNAV, VNAV, so XPDR only. Before takeoff checklist below the line. MCP, set, transponder, XPDR, strobe lights on, holding at landing lights. Right, obviously nobody on the approach here. Okay, 8 right, clear takeoff. Delta 1323. Okay, ready? Takeoff. Stabilized. Set takeoff thrust. Takeoff thrust set, indications normal. Checked.
Positive rate of climb.
Gear up. Okay, RNAV and VNAV. I'm going to do a little bit of manual flight here because I do really enjoy flying that 737. Acceleration just now, flaps 1. Speed checked. And flaps up. Speed checked, flaps up. Right, so lovely view outside. So where's the Hard Rock Cafe? Should be somewhere here, right? Should be somewhere over there. I know. I'm setting priorities here. Okay, so, as expected, ATC does clear us to continue the climb. So, set. Flight level 90 checked. Beautiful look down at Miami and Miami Beach in the front over there. I could really get used to flying with a heads-up display, you know that? Could really get used to it. But well. Okay then, delete the speed restriction please. Execute. And off we go towards 250. In the meantime, when you get the chance, off the takeoff checklist. And we'll wait for the cabin. Right, so air compressor is at 3.2 climbing and set. Holding at altimeters. No, you can continue the climb, please. It's interesting, when you look out the window on the heads-up display while you are doing your manual flight, then everything seems to be much more agile than when you're just looking down at the primary flight display. You can just see changes in a much more sensitive way on the HUD. Okay, we'll do the 10 checks once we've flown the acceleration, and thereafter I'm also going to put the autopilot on. But for now, let's keep doing that stuff manually. It is good training after all, and in what weather conditions would your hand fly if not in these? Keeping the plane in trim, probably the most important thing during hand flying. Alright, master portion fuel. Alright, that's the center tank that's empty. Here we go. Right, continue to climb much higher. Say 18,000 and Command A. Alright, so 10 checks then. Fuel is now balanced with 4 pumps on. Lights are gonna remain on below 18,000. Okay, APU is off. Aircon and press 4.8 climbing set. Fast melts. Let's release the cabin first, and then passenger second. Okay, recall is checked, and 1 to 1.5, monitoring. 10 checks complete. So we're heading 325. Obviously stuff like this would have been tidy if we had a second pilot in here. Unfortunately we don't, so we just gotta fly it like this. Interesting thing there to notice is that despite our weather radar or respectively terrain display being on, we don't have any range rings in this airplane. So that's the way Delta configured it apparently. Which is interesting. Not too many airlines do it this way these days, but makes it even more interesting when airlines do. Right, don't need the chronometer anymore. Wow, this is looking interesting. I was about to say that that would have been an excellent shot if these huge transitions here on the terrain would not have been there. It's always lovely to look down the terrain in the US over here and see all those waterways and everything you got here. Really beautiful. Really beautiful. I do very much like flying in Florida in the real world as well. Definitely one of my favorite places to visit. Okay then, continuing the climb, looking for 30,000 or flat out 300. Right, that's set. 300 checked and set once, twice, and 3 times, monitoring 1 to 1.5. Okay, so with that we're kind of on the way, and then I'd say we are just going to go for a little bit of time acceleration as soon as we are past the next turn over here. And once the altimeter is set to standard and passengers are released. There is no turbulence forecast, interestingly enough, even though we are flying into some rather strong headwind. But, well, let's see. So, set standard. Standard cross-check, passing level 181 now. Checked. Okay, so, conditions do look good to me. Let's go ahead and release our passengers, and we're above transitions, so lights can go out as well. For my European friends here, the reason we leave the lights on all the way till 10 or till the transition altitude here in the US is because of VFR traffic, as VFR is permitted up to 18,000. So we just want to be sure the airplane is visible a little bit better. Okay, that's our route of flight. I'm going to turn that one in daylight mode now. It's just that I do like the night mode in here when I am... I do like the night mode when I'm constantly working inside the plane and looking here, especially with a little bit of zoom in it. You know, it makes the cockpit transition between bright and dark all the time. That's something that I'm not a great fan of, let's put it that way. Right, so a little bit time acceleration on the way over. And as we are now accelerating along our way, let's talk a little bit about some of the advantages and disadvantages of the effect of weather on our flight altitude. This is not the first time that you see me fly a rather low altitude on this channel with some headwind ahead, and last time I already got a couple of questions about it, so I thought like, well, let's shed a bit of light into it over here as well and use that opportunity today. So, the effect of wind on our flight. Well, it doesn't take a genius to determine that if you've got headwind, you are going to be slower, therefore you're going to burn more fuel. But to make things a little bit more interesting, when you do have the headwind, how strong does it have to be so that it actually does have an effect? Well, in the Boeing we just basically used to say like, okay, more headwind isn't good, we just stay low. Alright, that was the easy way of doing things though, since my former airline didn't want to invest into any apps or anything that was actually able to calculate stuff. But let's talk about the effect of headwind in a little bit greater detail today. So, we're going to start this one off with how much of a headwind actually does offset flying at a higher altitude. Well, In the Airbus, we do have some little bit more sophisticated performance tools available on our iPad than we had in my previous airline on the Boeing fleet. By the way, that's 1,000 to go vertical speed. Now, in the Airbus, we therefore get to know the effect of wind on our actual economy in a little bit greater way. And basically what it tells us is that when you just got about 3 or 4 knots additional headwind, when you climb to a 2,000 feet higher altitude, that already offsets the benefit in fuel consumption. So you can see the effect isn't all that great. But, and that's where it gets interesting, you also got to take into account the effect this has on time. So let's go back in a VNAV, and you can see that VNAV is opting for a cruising speed here of only Mach 0.73, which is rather slow for a 737. Now, the reason this happens is because we're using a rather low cost index. We're flying cost index 13 today, which is the best that I could research for the Delta Airlines 737. And when you fly far below your optimum altitude, then the speed that's going to result from your cost index is going to be pretty low as well. We can see over here our optimum is 358, but that does not take the wind into account. That is the reason why we're flying so much below the optimum. This is different, for example, in the 777, where you've got a recommended optimum altitude on the VNAV page, or in the Airbus aircraft, where the optimum is immediately adjusted for wind anyway, and you don't even get to know your optimum without winds, because, hey, what's the sense of it? So, you got to keep in mind that as we're flying at a lower altitude right now, we are not necessarily going to be at our destination faster if we fly the cost index that our airline wants us to fly. If we were running really late and if the airplane just needed to be at our destination on time, then things would look a little bit different, as we could always speed up all the way to 7.8 or 7.9 or something, and flight level 300 is approximately the altitude where you get to fly the greatest true airspeed versus Mach number. So if you just want to go fast, level 300 is usually, neglecting the wind, the level you gotta choose to fly. You can kind of see it in here as well, where you can see we're only flying Mach 0.73, but look at the true airspeed, it's 430 knots. If you regularly fly low cost indexes, then you will probably be aware that 430 knots is a true airspeed that you might very well also get at flight level 360 when you're doing something like Mach 0.76 or so up there. So 430 true airspeed, down here 0.73, at higher levels that would be more common for cruising, around 0.76 or something the likes. And this does have an impact. You can see that we are now flying at true airspeed at a comparably low Mach number, but with quite a bit less headwind. You can see it's 72 knots headwind over here, versus a forecast headwind of 110 knots at flight level 390, and at our optimum, or at least our wake-based optimum, of about level 360 that we can see down here in the FMS, we would have approximately 100 knots of headwind. So if we do a little bit of quick thinking here, we quickly get to the conclusion that, let's say if we climb to level 360 now, based on this cost index, we'll probably fly a true airspeed of about 450 knots true airspeed. So about 15 knots quicker than we are right now. But the headwind would be about 25 knots stronger. So for that reason, staying down low is the thing to do. The other thing that we need to take into consideration over here is the effect of the wind on our cost index calculated Mach number. This is something that only very few add-ons actually model correctly, but the PMDG 737 is one of those. Now, in the real world, the cost index does not always give you the same speed. So, let's say you're flying cost index 13 like we are right now. Now, the speed range that we have could be anywhere from 7.3 with a lot of headwind, to maybe even a bit more like 7.4 or Mach 7.5 if we had like 150 knots headwind compared to 75 that we have right now. But if we turned the wind around and made it a straight tailwind, then the target Mach number could go anywhere down low, like maybe somewhere over here or so, let's say 6.8 or something the likes. And all of that is stuff that the airplane takes into account. So some people say that, yeah, I have headwind, so I have to fly a higher cost index. Well, that is not true, unless obviously your airline wants you to do it. But just following basic cost index logic, you can maintain your cost index, and the speed that you get as a result of the cost index is already going to be modified for the actual wind conditions. So with the same cost index, like right now, cost index 13, you could fly a whole range of different airspeeds. And that is standard cost index 101, really, but something that only very few flight sim developers actually do model correctly. So many developers are simply linking the actual cost index to the to a certain speed, and that's it, and neglect the influence of wind. Some others just go ahead and use some random generated data there, but the good thing is if you have a real study level add-on like a PMDG 737 or a Phoenix A320 and stuff like that, then that's not going to happen, but the airplane is actually going to do some proper mathematics there and some proper adjustment of the cost index. Now, talking in terms of cost index, what does really get interesting is if you are filed at a higher level and a low cost index, and then ATC keeps you low, for example for traffic reasons or for any other reasons. Now the result of that is obviously going to be that you're going to fly very slow speed, and well, in that case, if your airline allows you to, my former airline did not, but if the airline allows you to, then you might obviously go ahead and modify the cost index. Alright, so that much for a little bit of basic cost index theory. Now we're just over flying HJAMs over here. Let's have a quick look into the flight plan and play a little bit with that delta layout, see if we can find some fuel information and stuff like that. So, MJAMs, here we are. So, how do we gotta read this? RN2, is that our forecast flight time? No, it's not. So this only tells us 06. I do believe that's probably the minute that should have taken from previous waypoint. But okay, fair enough. In any case, the fuel remaining should be 11.8. We have 12.9. Remember, we loaded about 1,000 pounds more, so we're running very, very well on our fuel schedule. Another thing to do in the regular fuel checks, obviously, is go down with fuel used, add those up. So we got about 6,000 pounds used. We got 13,000 pounds on board. So add the two up, you end up at 19,000 pounds, which is the amount of fuel that we actually loaded on the ground. So easy going in terms of fuel. We have absolutely everything we need. It's interesting also looking at the right display where we've selected terrain, the left one where we've selected weather. Well, not that this would be working, but you get where I'm going with this. This looks rather dramatic over here, with, you know, mountains and stuff like that, but then you're thinking, wait a moment, I'm over Florida. And then you look down here at the numbers and you all of a sudden see like, well, it's only 300 feet of terrain, and nonetheless the display makes it look rather prominent, which is interesting. I don't recall seeing it that prominently in those airplanes that I've flown over the past 5 years. If we do actually have a look into the en route chart, by the way, let's zoom in a bit. I'm looking for the MSA. Here we go, 2,900. So, all the way easy going. So, heading out for Jacksonville, that's where the Charlie Romeo Golf VOR is, just up there, and we can see Jacksonville coming up on our display unit as well. Let's see that from the outside. Very, very nice. What's also interesting, if you take a look outside, then you can see like we're kind of flying in a straight line over there. So you really get to see the crab angle of the airplane very, very well like this. This gets even more interesting in the simulator when you do this with a large airplane like the 747 or the 787, and all of a sudden you got that huge, majestic looking airplane, and it's pointing 20 degrees into the wind and flying somewhere completely different than where the nose is pointed. Obviously that is a normal effect, but it's something that many people just lose track of for a bit, and then are really surprised when they see that happening. Alright, slowly but steadily coming up north of Florida into the area of Jacksonville. Let's see if we can spot the airport coming up. Should be about 20 miles ahead, so somewhere over there maybe? Yeah, that could be it, I suppose. That's probably going to be Jacksonville Airport, so we're flying over Jacksonville right now. Small comment here on the usage of time acceleration, by the way, as we go along with it. Personally, you know that already from past videos that I am a rather big fan of using time acceleration. It does enable us to fly flights that otherwise we might just not have the time for, and that is something that I do appreciate, especially with all the terrain flying by. You know, in the real world, I do like to sit in the cockpit and just look out and watch the terrain fly by. In the simulator, however, I do, technically speaking, have other stuff to do than just sit there and look out for, you know, time over time again. And I do just prefer to have that possibility to still see the terrain fly by, watch the hugely beautiful landscapes in Microsoft Flight Simulator as we fly along, but still do a couple of little bit longer flights. This gets especially interesting when you got airplanes like the 737-900ER that we are flying right now, or the 777, which are more or less designed for longer routes. Prior to starting this recording, I thought like, well, should I really fly it from Miami up, because I kind of wanted to have a look at Miami first before looking at the other airport at Atlanta. But obviously with the headwind here, the flight is taking some 20 minutes longer than it otherwise would if we were only doing it the other way around. So I kind of do like that. It's also really worth pointing out the time acceleration feature of the PMDG aircraft, because the 737 is, as far as I'm aware, the only airplane that actually got an autopilot designed to work with time acceleration. The 777's of course going to have that one as well. As you can see, the plane does go a little bit left and right occasionally when you are doing turns, but the autopilot of the 737 is tuned to deal with time acceleration. It does it very well at 4x, it also works at 8x, which does become more interesting when you're flying the 777 and when you want to fly the airplane across the pond, but also when you're flying it along those routes that got lots of turns built in them, like airways over the Middle East, which does get rather important as the Middle East is an important hub for 777 operations. In any case, we are slowly coming up to the top of the descent here, only 90 miles remaining, so heading straight into the continental United States down towards Atlanta. Let's go ahead and take the plane out of time acceleration for a moment in order to start looking into our star and into the approach that we're going to fly. So, first of all, pinned charts, let's get rid of the Miami charts, which we don't need anymore. And instead, let's go on to the search, arrival, Atlanta, here we go. I'm gonna start with the airport charts over here. Airport and airport info chart, and then we can take the parking gates as well. And as we're on it, a little look on the standard taxi routes. So, number one, we gotta determine the landing runway that we're going to use. So if we do take a quick look into the arrival weather, what does it look like? 170 at 9, okay, so it's a slight headwind on the runway 0809 landing direction. So that's probably what we're going to use. Altimeter 2997, the moment I see an altimeter I got it pre-selected, otherwise I'm pretty sure I'm going to forget about it. So 2997 set once and 2997 set twice. Okay, so that's awesome. Then let's go ahead with our arrival setup. So, Atlanta Star, and it's the Jedi 3 arrival that we're going to fly today. I do love the Star Wars references. I really do. Okay, so, how are we coming in? From last, above level 240, New Hope, Death Star, Wookiee, Jedi. I really love those things. Look at that. Hoop, Lando, X-Wing, Boba Fett, Jedi. Man, I love this airport. I totally love it. That's much better than the Disney references, by the way, that you've got at things like Orlando. Alright, so then, gotta turn on the actual landing runway that we want to go on to. And that's probably going to be, well, either the 9s or the 8th. Well, starting with a star, is that actually bound for any particular runway? Does look like it, doesn't it? So, let's see. Yeah, this is definitely for the 2.6 or 2.7 landing direction. Unless, where's that number 1 here? Okay, that's in there. Well, fair enough. So that's probably not the star that we need actually for arrival. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and start searching a little bit. Sith 2. Okay, I like that one as well. Forget about the Jedis, we take the Sith. Whether you notice something? Jedi arrivals 2.6, Sith arrivals runway 09. I love it. I really do. Alright, excellent. So, with that our stars selected, then let's go ahead for the airport. I'd say if we land down here on 9 right, or 9 left. I suppose they're departing left, landing right, so 9 right for the landings, then vacating either November 6 or November 10, and then taxiing up here to the parking spots. That does seem right to me. So let's take 9 right for the landing then. Okay, so landing runway, and then we gotta go for... There's runway 10, runway 28, 8 left, 8 right, 9 left, 9 right. Here it is. And the availability of all those different approaches, by the way, does kind of suggest that 9 right is indeed the main landing runway. Okay, so, in the real world, I'd prepare for the PRM approaches, but we're probably not going to get those in the sim because we don't have the associated ATC, so it's going to be an ILS 9 right. Reference, overview, well, hard to see anything in here, is it? Yeah, thanks. I don't think we're going to gain anything from that. Alright, fair enough. So let's go ahead and start with what we got. So, arrival, and look at that. We just spent 30 nautical miles only to determine our landing runway. So, Sith 2 via Lars. And then for the transition, we might as well just go for any of these on the final there. So, ILS 9 right out of Andy. That looks good. Okay, so we take 250 below level 100, which is the speed limit. And get rid of that. Forecast. Just request the latest winds here, and 29.97 is going to be our QNH. Like so. Transition level 180 is correct. Waiting for the wind uplink now. Let's see if that's actually going to make any change. I do believe it just imports the SimBrief winds, so yeah, same data. Alright, that's fair enough. So then, runway 09 right, gonna go for that, slash 90 miles, slash 10 miles, and it is good weather, so slash 4 miles. Quick check of all the waypoints then. After Larry, we proceed to Lars. That is as filed anyway. Okay, so let's go over the star itself then. Is there anything we can plan vertically? Yeah, Tizzy at 12,000. That's gotta be fine. And any other advice on the chart up here, maybe? No. Okay, so excellent. Then we're gonna start at last, above level 240, that's what we have in here. On towards New Hope, Fork, and then Sith. So, last New Hope, Fork, Sith. Right, then towards Tizzy, and then onto the downwind there. So we got Tizzy, then Fireshot, Remag, and Dactyl, and then on towards Stump. And we have all of those. Then continue on the heading. That's what we have in here as well. Awesome. Finally, US arrival that is not completely filled up with vertical transitions and stuff like that. But that's simply got a few logical constraints. Alright, so RLS 9 right, let's go ahead with that. 095 is going to be the course. 095, 095, 108.9 on the frequencies. 1089 active, 1089 active. Alright, minimums 1226. Here we go, elevation 1020, so we're gonna stick with 1000 in here. Alright, and then for the routing, coming from Andy, 7000, towards Defense, 6000, Good Guy, 5000, Easy, 4000, and then on towards Bernie, 2700. Intercept the glide from there, 3 degrees, versus nothing in here. Okay, fair enough. In terms of speed, let's do Good Guy at 180 knots or less, just to get some little bit more conservative predictions over there. Alright, and then for a missed approach, if we do have a look into that, so climb to 4000 and heading 100 and inbound Alpha Hotel November VOR. Then radial 235 to Connie, which is at 30 dB. So 095, 100 intercept, and then 055 to Connie. Yep, that's pretty much it. Right, Alpha Hotel November 16.95. We can also pre-select that. 11695, 11695. Okay, awesome. So that's pretty much this. Then with that, I'd say, are you ready for the approach briefing? Okay, so threats for the arrival. Well, busy airport, busy airspace, and most importantly, complicated taxi routing. But we're familiar with all of those, so I don't see any big problems there. It's going to be self-vectoring on the approach, but we're not flying online, so other traffic isn't that much of a problem. Perhaps vehicles on the ground are a problem. We'll have to see. We'll look out the window, and if in doubt, we're going to stop the airplane. Okay, so for the arrival, forecast page is filled in. Select the 280 knots for the descent, 250 below 100, forecast, fixed rings, 9 right, 10 miles, 4 miles, and the approach itself is the Sith 2 arrival. For the ILS 9 right, all of that is cross-checked. Okay, landing fuel 8,000 pounds and reserves 6.8, so that's 1.2 extra. That's like what, 10 minutes flying time? A little bit more maybe, say 10 to 15 minutes of extra fuel. So we're going to burn basically 2,000, so 1.9 makes it 143.6. Okay, so gonna use landing flaps 30, tail strike is a little bit of a risk, we're flying at 900 there, but then again, we are just careful on the flare and that's it. Auto brake 3 is going to vacate us to the left overall, and if we have a look at the upward chart, we're going to come off to the left, probably November 6 or November 10, I suppose rather November 10, and then we do have a hotspot over here, crossing 9 left on Delta, and we've got to make very sure that we are clear to cross that runway, and that there is no departing traffic. Right then, from Delta we go straight, and we're parking anywhere at any of these concourses over here. And that's pretty much it. Any questions on the briefing? No? Excellent. Alright then, I'm off ATC and I'm going to do the PA to the passengers. Let's see, what does the weather look like? Yeah, cloudy, 14 degrees. Ladies and gentlemen, from flight deck, this is your captain speaking. We're going to start our descent towards Atlanta in a few moments. Remaining flight time is approximately half an hour. The weather in Atlanta at the moment, cloudy at a temperature of 14 degrees centigrade. Nonetheless, we are going to make an on-time arrival and we'll bring you smooth onto the ground over in Atlanta. And we hope that you therefore have plenty of time to catch your connecting flights, or we are going to wish you a nice and safe continuous journey. In any case, we'd like to say thank you very much and say goodbye to you now from the flight deck. We do hope you enjoyed your Delta Airlines flight and we look forward to welcoming you again on board of a future scheduled service. Thank you very much for your attention and we wish you a nice and safe onwards journey. Alright, I'm back in. Descent checklist please. Pressurization, land out 1000, NEIs off, approach with fuel discussed, ice and out box checked and set, descent checklist complete. Right, so all that good stuff is done. Last thing for us to do, we can set up the heads-up display. Totally forgot about that earlier. It's just not in my normal workflow since we didn't have HOTS at the airline I flew for previously. So that's 9,000 foot runway. And the threshold elevation of 1096 in there. 1096. Right, 3-degree glide path, and IMC A3 mode is armed. Okay, excellent. So with that, we are now fully set up for our arrival. Let's go ahead and put the burners on for a little bit longer. Right, the hyperdrive is working. And then we're going to start our descent as scheduled. Beautiful look down there on the United States. I really do still appreciate how versatile of a country this is. Over the recent couple of months I flew along the US East Coast, north to south, south to north, so often, and I really just gotta say that I gotta appreciate the way the country looks. But also, for example, the way how air traffic control changes when you're coming from north to south. You can really hear the accents change, you can hear some of the procedures change a little bit, but mostly the accents really, and that is something that, I don't know, it just makes the flight a little bit more interesting there. It just makes them a little bit more interesting. So, I'm going on a little bit shorter range here so that we can see our top of descent approaching accordingly. About a mile prior, I'm going to take the airplane out of time acceleration and then we'll start our actual descent procedure. Here we go. Alright, so going down. Let's say 12,000, that's our first maintain restriction. Right, starting the descent now. Calling me a retard again. And somebody tell me only Airbuses do this. Right, down we go. So the plane is establishing nicely in the descent. Let's go ahead and turn on the fasten belts already so that our passengers can get strapped in. And down we go. So, hyperdrive can come on once more. Maintaining 280 in the descent, the plane has transitioned nicely onto that speed, and down we go. We have the VSD in here. Yes, we do. Alright. I'm just gonna use that in order to monitor the vertical progress. I mean, we're in VNAV anyway, so it is gonna comply with all the restrictions, but I kinda got to appreciate the VSD a little bit more now that I no longer have it on the A330. But it's always like this, is it? If there is something that you don't have, then you're longing for it. And if there's something that you do have, you're like, well, I don't need it at all. But it's still an interesting thing that on the older Airbus series, like the A330, A320, but even the Neo versions of those, we just never saw any of those retrofits. A little bit more thrust there, 280 knots please. Interesting that we got like 50 knots too slow, seeing that basically we did have all those winds in. So it starts to get a little bit more cloudy in the front. That's basically what our weather forecast was anyway. Okay, approaching the transition, set QNH. QNH 2997 cross check, passing 17.9 now. Checked. Right, belts are on and lights are coming on as well. Here we go. So, those constraints are basically assured. That means back to the normal nav mode. Of course, I do find the display a little bit cluttered, to be honest, but hey. Right, start the left turn in a few moments. I am proud of myself that I actually remembered to pre-select that heading buck. Alright. Light speed one more time until we are close to the 25-mile ring, and then we're going to go into and maintain the real-world speed. So, fifth to arrival. I just love those names. I completely love them. Right, that's 1,000 to go. Let's see how well it flies the level off. Yeah, not 100%. Gonna help it. I'm gonna help it. So this is better. I'm kind of going to do a little bit of a vertical management myself now. VNAV obviously did enter its energy compensation feature here, so it tries to reduce the speed and it tries to do a geometric path descent now. Well, I'm going to intervene there and I am going to do that stuff myself. What you can do though, if you want your VNAV to recalculate, is just enter the cruising altitude as your present altitude, so 12,000. I'm going to do 280 knots, managed. Now look at that, 279 is scheduled anyway. Let's do 280, and on the descent we also got 280. Now you're going to get a new top of descent, see that? 24 miles out. But remember, that's going to take into account the complete routing there. We're probably going to fly more something like this. So, we're going to start our descent any moment now. Literally when we're 5 miles from Phrase. Just going to accelerate a little bit to get there. And once we're there, we are going to go into real time and we are going to start doing a little bit of vertical management there. Always a bit of a challenge, but obviously part of the pilot's job to anticipate how long your tracking routes are going to be. Obviously you can't just ask air traffic control, but if everybody is asking, then they will eventually get rather unhappy as well. But let's go down to 7,000, a lot will change, and then we'll try to achieve a nice CDA. So retard MCP speed, and down we go. So let's see, lights are on, signs are on, so all of that good stuff is looking good. All of that good stuff is looking good. Yeah, okay. Welcome to my cockpit. Right then, turning downwind, and we can already see something nice there. So, let's see. Latest weather, please. Okay, it's unchanged, 17089, so it is going to be a headwind on the final, on the short final, but look at that, we got 30 knots of headwind right now, so it is definitely going to get interesting with energy management as we turn final if the wind doesn't change earlier on. So, speed 250 below 100, let's go ahead and start our speed reduction, and then we'll see what's going to happen. So in the meantime, let's do a first check. Frequency is 108.9 set once, twice, and 3 times. Fixed rings, runway 9 right, 10 miles, 4 miles, items. Okay, items iPhone, and we have iPhone and iPhone. Standby instruments, set courses 095 and 095. Okay, approach checklist please. Ultimate instruments, second cross check, approach check set, approach checklist complete. So, temperature plus 15, we don't need anti-ice for those clouds, but we can dim the HUD a bit. Remember the tutorials for the heads-up display. It's supposed to keep the brightness at a level where you can easily look through it, but still see it. And that's kind of the challenge over here. Okay, so what does the data page say? 4,000 footed easy for intercept. Okay, so let's do just that. Set, 4,000 checked. We will have some tailwind on the way in, so gotta start configuring a little bit earlier then. But we should be nicely set up now for the entire approach. Our charts are also prepared. That is excellent. So we're pretty much good to go for everything now. In terms of parking positions later on, let me show you where we're gonna go. So we go all the way to the left over here, parking right down there, Tango 2. That's our parking. So we can mentally prepare our image for the taxi in already. Okay, 3,000 feet to run. Let's see. 3 miles, 5 miles, 8 miles for 3,000 feet. Nah, we still gonna lose a bit of speed, so tell you what. Let's go for the speed brake. Help it a little bit at least. So, speed brake 220. Quick check on the flap speeds if everything is still correct. Yeah, 142 looking good. Okay, flaps 1. Speed checked. Okay, turn right, heading 350. Easy on top, please. Yeah, showing slightly high, that's kind of what I expected. Flaps 5. Speed checked. Flaps 5. Don't need the speed brake anymore, but we can slowly start getting our speed down. Let's do 180. So that base vector is looking rather good at 350. Using the standby instruments now to judge the glide slope, which you can see we are exactly on. So once we get out of the final turn, or rather once we get into it, we should be very nicely established on the glide. Just gotta keep an eye on our speed there, because the wind is now actually 40 knots tailwind, and that is still gonna shift to a crosswind. So getting the speed dealt with is probably the most important thing right now. Okay then, right turn 060, cleared ILS. Here comes the glide slope. Approach arms. Warlock captured. Runway heading 095. Vertical speed. Interesting. Ultra quiet, maintaining 4,200. Why is it doing that? Okay, here it goes down again. That's better. Glide slope capture. Go around altitude 4,000 sets. Okay, cool. Established. So, 30 knots tailwind, making ground speed of 214. If it stays like that, we're going to configure the plane at like 6 miles or so, which is basically at Bernie. But if our speed is increasing too much, then we'll just configure it a little bit earlier as well. So things do look okay the way they are right now, but let's just be on the safe side here. Also, because I do want to do a little bit of hand flying later, so let's just do all of this stuff already. Okay, the wind is very slowly turning to the right, which is exactly where we want it. Okay, gear down, flaps 15, landing checklist. Down switches, continuous, recall, checked, speed brake, on green light, landing gear down through green. Auto brake, 3 set, holding at flaps. Flaps 30. Speed checked. It will be crosswind, so we can do VRF plus 5. Okay, so flaps 30, 30, green light, on, landing checklist complete. Cabin crew, please take your seats for landing. Okay, so here we go. Should need a pitch of approximately 1 degree. Checked. 147 knots speed is our target. Okay, so everything is looking excellent here. The wind has almost completed the turn now. It's just awesome how accurate you can fly the plane through the heads-up display. I really like that. Wish we had one in the real world as well on our aircraft.
Approaching minimums.
Checked.
200. Minimums.
Continue.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Okay, so thanks to Sim Update 15 we don't have reversers available. That's gonna mean some pretty hot brakes. So 80 knots, 60 knots, manual brakes, auto brake disarm. Hour and 41 versus an hour and 40 in the forecast. That looks okay to me. So let's get rid of the hot. So now we are already approaching the hotspot, but let's say that ATC has already cleared us to cross the runway. So let's slowly break it down. I don't want to run this at 30 knots. This is better. Okay, clear left side, and no traffic over there. Clear right side. So, crossing 9 left, and then we're gonna go sack to the left. So, performance seems to be pretty good over here in Atlanta. That's my very first impression. Not 100% sure how well that's going to be reflected on the video, because sometimes the recording software seems to have a little bit of a problem with frame rate generation. But overall, I can say that my very first impression over here is pretty good in terms of performance. In terms of ground textures, things do look pretty similar to me as they did on the previous version, so that's probably something that ImagineZim has not really worked on too much. Or maybe my remembrance is just a little bit flawed there. Might be as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and clean it up. Too bad, sometimes this works to get the speed down to 100. Not always though, that's realistic. Okay, slightly faster, 32 knots. Here we go, 30, that's good. Sim lagging just a slight bit there while zooming in. Here we go though. Okay, so looking for stand Tango 2. Let's see what GSX is going to come up with. Tango 2. Looking good. No follow me required. And handling by Delta Airlines. 3 minutes. But it's a 900 and we're pretty full. I'm going to keep both engines running here. I'm not going to do single engine taxi at this weight. But it is considered. So, not this one, but the next one to the right. APU start. And it's going to be the second gate. Right, 10 knots. We can see our ground equipment over there already. Right side is clear, left side is clear. Oh yeah, a couple of Delta Airline logos on the jetways there. No surprises. Okay, let's get that speed down a little bit further, and here we go. that docking system working? Doesn't really look like it, huh? Oh, stop. Okay, that came quick. Well, anyway, here we are. So, that is 2 blue and 1 red. Engine's dead. Having through all doors in park. So, engines are still running down. Okay, both engines below 20%. Anti-collision light coming off. And then, let's see. Parking brake set. GPU request. Jetway request. And ground service vehicles request as well. Ready for unloading. Okay, so truck's in position. Brake can be released. Brake is released. Ground power running. Alright, shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps off, electrical on ground power, fast modes off, window heat off, probe heat auto, NEIs off, electric hydraulic pumps off, voice recorder auto, air compacts off, engine bleeds on, APU bleed off, exterior lights set, start switches off, auto brake off, speed brake down to 10, flaps up and light, parking brakes released, start levers cut off, weather radar off, transponder is 2000 standby, CVI/CV in, cockpit door about to be unlocked, and that's the shutdown checklist complete. So, thank you very much everyone for flying along. I do hope you liked this one. Now, let's wait until they have opened that door, and then we can go ahead with our deboarding. And as the deboarding is in progress, we are going to start with a quick look outside here to have a look at what the overworked Atlanta scenery looks like. So at our gate over here we only got a couple small windows actually, nothing too great, and well, okay, textures in here are rather let's call it rather simplified. From the outside though, that does look pretty alright, and seeing that this is the biggest airport in the world, I do have to say that our performance is exceptionally good. Now, on the other hand side, we can see where that comes from, though, because the overall quality, even though they did say version 2.0 is a major rework, well, yeah, it is compared to the previous version, but it's still, you know, a little bit behind many other airports. Let's just go over to the other side, have a look at what another of those terminals looks like, just so that we can rule out that it is only ours looking like this, but looks like over here it is basically the same thing. So that is Imagine Sims Atlanta version 2 and 2.1 actually already. They did already deliver a little update there, but looks like they can still do a little bit more. In any case, I do hope that you enjoyed this particular flight, and if you did, then do let me know in those comments below. Very much looking forward to your input on this one. I do hope that you also enjoyed flying that 900 again with me. And with that, I would like to say thank you very much for watching. As always, if you did like the video, be sure to leave a like on YouTube as well, as it does really help out the channel. Be sure to comment to let me know what you think about it, and finally to subscribe if you're up for more. If you really love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. But until then, I would like to say thank you very much for watching, and see you all again on the next one. By the way, also let me know if you do like those time accelerated videos in the style how I did it right now. Thank you for watching, and see you all again on the next one.